So on today's show, we have the amazing, inspiring Joanne, and the conversation that we had today. I nearly cried. I could feel the emotions, and she is just like, she's just an inspiration. What a story she has, from basically being a heroin user, addiction with that, with being a young mum and navigating the addiction, that criminal justice system now. She's helping people because when she was in addiction, shoplifting or different things for that survival is now can carry on into your life and stop you from travelling or doing things for something that you've done a long time ago in your life. And she has flipped her life around like 360. It's remarkable in ways that she helps people now with so many different hats on to really help, because she's had this real life lived experience. What an inspiring, uplifting experience just chatting to her today. So you really need to tune into this one. It is phenomenal. Your mind will be blown. And she even touches on plant medicine and how that helps her now, and it's helped her with helping other people as well as she goes through her journey. And purpose is just helping people through this passion that she's got through her lived experiences. So if you enjoy this, please remember to like, subscribe and share the channel, and I really hope that you get a lot from this, because I know I did today. So good morning, Joanne.
Hi, Michelle. Lovely
Hi.
to chat.
I'm really looking forward to this. So today I've got Joanne O'Dyer on the phone, well, you're on the phone, I can see you, but on the podcast today, on the Hogcast. Joanne has got a remarkable story, and I have heard some parts to it, but I haven't actually heard your full story in depth from you, and I'm really honestly heartfelt. Thank you for wanting to share your story, because it's real, it's raw, and the fact that now you're moving and working with purpose because a part of your past is truly inspiring. So honestly, Joanne, thank you so much for coming on today.
No, it's my honor. It's my honor, and yeah, it's great to be here. And yeah, like you said, I'm kind of using my voice now from my lived experience to hopefully support others and to evoke change within services and policy. And yeah,
Oh, it's honestly really inspiring, because everybody can have a story, but some people don't project that into something purposeful, which is not a bad thing. But you've really taken that, and you're, like I said, you're evoking change. You're really pushing forward with what you are doing now, which is a massive thing, because there is so many things that do need to be changed, but it takes a strong badass to actually push through with that and see that through. And you definitely are that badass.
yeah. See, Michelle, I always believe, people that are very vocal like myself are maybe out there and loud and proud. When I talk, then I'm, reducing the stigma that maybe the people that are, hiding in the shadows or, shrouded with shame and embarrassment around the life I've had. It gives them hope and courage to reach out and get help. And, they look and go, well, if she can talk about it and she's not ashamed of it, or maybe, I don't have to feel as bad about my experience. It does. It empowers others to get help and to reach out. So that's why I'm very passionate about it. And I do feel as well that women, the barriers for women accessing services in the field I work in, and are far greater than men. I think a lot of men maybe talk about this topic, but not as many women. So I hope I'm somewhat being the voice of women in recovery, women who are in recovery from criminal justice, women who are in recovery from trauma, pain and hurt.
No, honestly, you really are. And like you said, it's it's empowering other people by just hearing somebody else speak out about something, or relating and saying, that's how I feel right now, that's what I'm going through. But there is support out there, and maybe it's time to share my voice as well, which is really, really important. So you're a light in the world that is needed right now, because just now the world it's the world. It can be pretty messed up and dark, and there needs to be more light shared in real life situations, because unfortunately things like this are never going to change, and the way that people cope with things are never really going to change, apart from there being that change and catalyst put in place to say that there's a support there, or you've got a different choice.
Yes.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely phenomenal. So if you're quite happy then to take me back to the start, let's hear your story from back. Like, where did it start, and just to get, basically end on what you're doing now, and what you're helping with. Just let us understand a little bit
Yeah.
about Joanne and Joanne's story.
Yeah. So I grew up I live now over the east coast in Ireland, but I would have grown up in the west of Ireland, a pretty rural area, and second child of four children. My mum and dad were, normal working class people. But as a young age, I was very insecure and I always struggled with my weight. I would have been a very anxious child. And I grew up in a house where, there was addiction within the family unit. And at a young age, there was sexual abuse from a family member. So that trauma, and coupled with, I suppose, how I was already feeling about myself, led me to be a very insecure, nervy child. And I would have definitely leaned on food to support my feelings, and my weight, Michelle, is something I've struggled with all my life, still to this day. I would lean towards food for comfort. So in my teenage years, I was a very good girl. I wanted to please people, and I was good in school, and really tried hard to. And I was always putting other people first, I suppose. That real wanting people to like me and wanting to be accepted and validated, and that sense of pleasing other people but not pleasing myself. In the teenage years, my parents moved around a lot, and through no fault of, like, they were just trying to kind of better, our family situation financially. So that the moving around made me, I was always a new girl in school, or as a new
Yeah, that
kid.
would have been hard.
And I struggled with that, and I used to try and reinvent myself every time we moved somewhere else. But it always left you very kind of, you never really had close friends, because as soon as you got to know somebody, your friend group, then you moved again. So there's that security that maybe I needed as a child was always kind of, I wasn't sure where I stood or where it was secure.
Yeah.
So in the teenage years, very, alcohol was very, very normal in our house. You know what I mean?
I'm going to say, is that the addiction
Yeah.
that you seen with your
Yeah,
own eyes?
I saw alcoholism, and I from like 14, 15, I suppose I started using alcohol. And would have been drinking, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I remember going to school, in like the age, or you know what I mean, just like, I suppose junior,
Like
first year in
granddaughters,
school.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
going to school hungover on a Monday and a Friday. From there, then, I suppose started, messing around with cannabis before I left school. But when I left school, I went from being a really good student to, just barely scraping by, and kind of there was something turning in me, changing in me, and I was becoming very aware of the trauma of my past. A lot of, memories would come back to me, and a lot of, feelings and association with that would have, and I would have had, struggled with sleeping and stuff at that stage, and was always reaching for food again. So when I went to college, I left school and I scraped into college. And I always say this, I actively sought out people who were, I suppose alcohol wasn't really, doing it for me anymore. And I actively sought out people who were using.
Yeah.
So like everything from ecstasy to, magic mushrooms. In them days, I suppose, like we're talking, late 1990s,
Yeah.
speed, anything that was really around. And it was great fun. I was having, enjoying my,
Yeah.
it was enjoyable drug use, recreational drug use, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I but very quickly fell out of college, and I moved to London then, and my drug use really, really escalated. I would have kind of dealt in London, and when I came back, I had lost 3 or 4 stone, and I was, I was, the rave scene was very heavy in
Yeah.
London and
Yeah.
in
Back
Dublin.
then.
Yeah, yeah, and it was, really enjoyable times. I met such great friends. When I came back from London, my parents had moved again. I ended up They were living in Dublin, so I moved in with a girl I knew, and we got an apartment in, or flat, I suppose, inner city Dublin. I very quickly met my son's father, Mark. I fell head over heels in love with him very quickly. Well, I thought I was in love, at that age.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, I suppose, I like Mark. was a good man. When you're young and you're just, somebody gives you, I suppose, attention, or, and
Yeah, it's a
it was so,
different kind of love,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. So we started a relationship, and very quickly on nights out, we started to kind of realize that there was people using heroin to come down off. So you'd be, going out on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and you'd be doing a few E's and staying up all night and then trying to function the following day. But it was like
Yeah.
I was in my head, I wouldn't touch heroin.
That was like the no-go.
Yes, yeah. But the day came where I needed to sleep, and everything else I was taking wasn't helping. So I'd be taking tablets or cannabis to try and come down from your
Mm.
night. And I just said, just give me a line of that. It was like, I always say this, it was like someone gave me the biggest, securest hug and said, "You've come home." And everything I'd ever been looking for, or that emptiness inside me and that pain and hurt, was just disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, like, just hearing what you're saying so far, Joanne, it's like talking about this, like the trauma and the abuse, from you being a young girl, pretty much. Everything was just masked and hidden, and you just got on with it, through the comfort. Then it started with the drink, because then that's almost like that second comfort that comes along just at that time in your life. Then it obviously goes on to the drugs, which is fun, it's recreational, but it can take somebody who's got trauma into that independent and that dark place. So you're using it for fun, but at the same time, it's kind of pulling you into that trauma that little bit more than there's a need for it. And then all of a sudden now it's that that one hit that you've had
See, so many
makes
people,
you feel
Michelle,
like that.
yeah,
That's incredible. Like, wow.
so many people can use drugs recreationally, and will. Young people will experiment, or will,
Yeah.
maybe have a phase in their life where they. But research would say that if the individual that ends up in addiction is generally the person who has trauma in their life. So and most people can use drugs recreationally and move on and leave it, and it's part of their life, and they just go back to back into normal functioning adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah, like trauma and addiction are highly correlated, so it's a coping mechanism. And I always say, like, if in the morning I broke my leg, I go to the hospital and they give me morphine for the pain, but my head or heart is in pain and nobody sees it. I just learn that, bag of coke, heroin, alcohol, whatever, it self-soothes. It takes the pain away. It helps you escape for momentarily, and then that becomes a learned habit, something you just continuously go back to time and time again.
Yeah.
From there, then, yeah, so it like started smoking heroin, and then like nights out didn't exist anymore. So where we used to be out like raving all weekend, it was nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, staying
Like,
in smoking.
and doing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it
okay.
went from, one extreme to
Yeah, to the
the
other.
other. And that brings its own isolation. And, you're not telling people what you're doing because you're ashamed or embarrassed. So the whole friend circle kind of, dissipates. So Mark and myself were, our nights out used to happen, and it was staying in at the weekend, getting 3 bags of heroin and smoking it. And, and then, a habit starts to build. So, you need it then midweek, because if you don't have it, you're sick. So life went on like that for a while, and obviously you're very secretive, and you function as like I was still working at that stage, and I was still trying to.
Really?
Yeah, I was, but like working, like maybe falling asleep in work, or maybe not turning up for work, that all that type of,
Yeah, yeah. But
borrowing
flakiness.
money off work colleagues, and all that. But yeah, but that went on for a few years, and then like that there was, just an escalation where you slowly start to, isolate from people, your loved ones. People know there's something up. You're not yourself, or you don't have money. You're, all them things kind of start to become aware to other people. And then there came the day where we didn't have enough money to buy, because, what I mean, to buy enough heroin to keep us from being sick. And the option of injecting became a very, and we knew people who were injecting around us, but it was like, again, another boundary I was never going to cross, because that's
Yeah.
junkie's a word I hate now. Or
Uh-huh.
that's
Uh-huh.
that's not, I would never cross that threshold. But the day came where the conversation with Mark and myself were, well, right, if we inject this, we won't be as sick as quick. You will get more of a hit from it, and so yeah. So we started injecting, and then once you start injecting, you never go back to smoking it, because you're not getting the same hit.
Wow, see, I didn't know any of this and what the difference is, or,
Yeah.
I would never have any knowledge of that. I know of people, for instance, that I went to school with, sadly have like lost their life with it, but this is just hearing through the grapevine kind of thing. But I didn't realise that it can start that way, and if you inject, then that's it. There's kind of no going back.
Yeah, well, for me, that was the situation. I do know people, like I work with people now that maybe inject and go back to smoking because their veins are gone or they can't get themselves, or the risk of overdose or whatever. Smoking would be a kind of a harm reduction way of taking heroin, because when you start injecting, and this is what happened to me then. Sure, I got hepatitis. I sharing needles
Oh,
with people, and I didn't get it once, Michelle. I got it twice. I got it the first time. I found out when I was pregnant with my son that
my
yeah.
goodness.
So I'll tell you anyway. So then we start, injecting. Then brings us a whole other world of chaos. From then on, like we started dealing drugs. We were bringing drugs in and out of the country. We were robbing everything, and all the madness that you know what I mean, you associate with
You get
level of
sucked into that.
So, and then I found out in 1999 that I was pregnant with my son. I was 22 at the time. I'm sure I was on methadone.
God, you're still a
Yeah,
young woman as well then,
yeah,
wow, okay.
yeah. And I didn't realize I was pregnant until like I suppose November, December, and I had Keen in May. So, I managed to stop injecting heroin for a few months before he came, and I had him just 2 or 3 days before my 23rd birthday. And you'd imagine, I always say this, you'd imagine, being a mother and having somebody that depends on you and
Hmm.
relies on you and needs you, that this would have been the impetus to get me shit together. But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't. It actually overwhelming feeling of being a mother and somewhat
Like
a single mother.
trapped all of a
Yeah.
sudden.
As time went on and Keen, a few months into Keen's, life, I went back using again. That just led into a cycle of just 5 or 6 years of absolute chaos and madness. Then I started injecting coke and heroin together because I wasn't getting any buzz from heroin.
Hell, oh my God, Joanne, bloody hell. That must have been such a, like, looking back, you're like, that's a scary time. But that at that time in your head, that's like a decision that's probably like totally feasible. Like, this is what, I need to do to get the same kind of hit of what I've been looking for. And were you finding motherhood that was kind of being on, well, thing is as well, you never knew you were pregnant as well. So you were taking this on as new. Did you find that the struggles of that were enhanced more, like actually having the baby? Like, how did you find coping with having the child and then having this addiction? Could you kind of just separate them, like keep that addiction going and kind of balance in motherhood, or did you have to find support, or how did you navigate that as well?
Well, for a while, I lived at home after I had my son Keane. I lived at home with my mum and dad, and they were fantastic. But like after a while, when I was back using, and they were challenging me, and they'd be finding like needles in the bedroom where my son was playing, and the challenge of that, I left home then, and went out on my own with Keane. So yeah, like the struggle was because you're meant to be a mother. I don't mean you're meant to be. I was a mother. I should know better. A mother, all the connotations of being a mother, caring, loving, present person, and I was none of that. He was being dragged along with me. The whole shame and stigma of being a mother who was a heroin addict, who, no money, not, every penny I had was going on drugs. So you were, obviously your child was wanting or lacking in certain areas, you know what I mean? So all of that in your head of not being the person you should be. And, when we think about motherhood and, this amazing time in your life with your, this new child that's meant to love unconditionally. And I loved heroin more than him for a period of his life. So yeah, that disconnect that you live through and in your head, and the shame and guilt and embarrassment, and the kind of knowing looks that you should know better, or, look at the state of her pushing the
Uh-huh.
pram, the mother, heroin user, going to methadone clinics to get methadone. You know that picture, and you know the judgment on that. So the
Yeah,
person feels that, and I felt it.
yeah.
and that
That
makes
must
me
have
feel
felt heavy.
better.
That must have felt heavy
Yeah.
because you were kind of already so fully sucked into addiction that you were just having to go through the mechanisms of life pretty much.
But when you're in addiction, Michelle, you don't like you're not you know what I mean. You're not thinking clearly, and you're not like you and me sitting here today, clear heads, and you're not thinking like that. Your whole life is consumed with your preoccupation is with getting the drug, getting the money to get the drugs, and then the minute that stops, the whole cycle starts again, and all the consequences and all the what I mean, and there is no control in your life.
Like no rationality.
Yeah, yeah. You're not thinking like logically like you and me are today.
Mhm.
That's all
Mhm.
out the window. So people are looking, going, "Well, why just stop? Just
Yeah,
what I mean, don't do it." It's not as easy as that. It's such a complex. You know what I mean? The physical withdrawals, the emotional withdrawals, the psychological withdrawals. It's such a complex issue to deal with. So you're not really thinking, as a logical mother should,
yeah.
and you're not really putting the needs of yourself or your child forefront. The
Yeah.
drugs are number one.
The drugs is the first thing. Yeah, that's like the first thing, the first need. Wow. And so how long did that keep going then? That kind of like that whole wheel that you were already turning and on. And how old was he by this kind of
Yeah,
point? When you were out by yourself, living by yourself and
yeah.
still
See,
using.
his dad and me, very quickly into Keen's life, we kind of went our separate ways. He was
Yeah,
in addiction as well, obviously, in
yeah.
and out of prison. He was, both physically and mentally not well. So we kind of very quickly into Keen's life kind of went our separate ways. I, would have got involved in, I was always kind of involved in, but the level of criminality, I suppose, escalated then because you're trying to make money. So you're shoplifting, you're aligning yourself with men that can get you drugs. You know what I mean? You're be carrying people in, my car that wasn't taxed and insured to go and get drugs so you're making money any way you can to supply your habit. So I was around maybe my son was around 4 or 5, and a few different things happened. So, as I said, at this stage, I was injecting into my neck and my groin, my veins in my rest of my body were gone. So I couldn't, you know what I mean? So they were so damaged, I couldn't get myself anymore. My doctor was like, okay, you're playing Russian roulette here. You're going to, someday you're just going to kill yourself you're going to get a clot. You're going to, there was a conversation with him. I was in court for a robbery or a theft that I was involved in, and I nearly ended up going to prison. And then also at the time, my mother and father left Dublin and moved to where I live now. Gave me the opportunity to come down and get my own little place and get out of Dublin because, that was, we look at people in addiction recovery and we talk about how to get recovery. We talk about people, places and things in your environment. And definitely
Yes.
when I was living in Dublin, everywhere I went, I could get drugs and you know what I mean? And everybody I hung around with, I could get drugs from. So there was a kind
The
of
environment was toxic at the time. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But the
And
school of
feeding
thought
that.
would be get her out of here and we've some chance. So
Mhm.
I always say it's like the perfect storm came, and then I also met a man at the time who I married then after, but we that all happened very quickly, and I left Dublin, and I moved down to where I live now, and on the 25th of March 2005 was the last time I ever injected heroin.
Okay, okay, good. Well done. Well done. What a journey to that stage. From there to that stage, that defining moment of saying, that's it.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah, well, look, like I always say, like I stopped. I'll tell you the next bit of the story, but I always say, well, I stopped using heroin and thought, oh, I'm cured. This is it.
Yeah,
I've landed. I've made like the problems. Just the problems just like I stopped using drugs, and I was still on methadone and still on benzos, and you're on prescribed medication. I was hepatitis. I had a different form of hepatitis at this stage, so I stopped using, and it was very liberating at the beginning. I was delighted with myself, but then I started overeating and I ballooned to like 24 and a half stone.
oh
Just,
wow.
yeah, I stopped. And in my head, I was like, well, you've stopped using the drug that was causing you all these problems. Yet I still had a load of problems. And I was like, I was very confused about like, well, why am I
Like
taking
just
this?
another addiction, another addictive
That's all I've done.
personality trait, like moving for that straight onto. something else, this comfort seeking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
swapped one for another, and it took me a few years for the penny to start to drop. And I remember, I was hugely overweight and couldn't walk, like, and was so unwell, and my blood pressure, and I was cholesterol, and I was like, just eat, get up from morning to night, just eating, 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 do no exercise,
Uh-huh.
kind of sitting around the house. I was like, started to take care of myself, so my house was clean now. There was food in the presses, like, there was
Yeah.
petrol in the car.
Yeah.
I was enjoying that kind of, I was kind of getting normality, but I wasn't
That's
making,
stability. Yeah.
yeah,
Normality.
but I wasn't making the connection that I just really swapped one addiction for the other. So one day I was just couldn't I was in a shopping centre with my son at Christmas, running after him down the aisle, and I sat down and kind of sat up again, them bucket chairs, and the chair
Yeah.
came with me, and I kind of, I was so big that the chair, actually came up with me. And I remember leaving the shop and going, something has to give
Absolutely
here. This is it.
mortified. Yeah. This is.
Yeah, yeah, I am a mess. I am so miserable. My everything, like suicidal thoughts, all came back. My mental health was just, I was like, and I had such bad mental health when I was, in my heroin addiction. But everything, like, was exactly. I was so astounded by the feeling of, well, this is exactly how I felt when I was out.
Exactly the
But
same
yeah,
feeling.
yeah.
Wow.
Thoughts of, depression, low mood, anxiety, not being happy, considering, finishing it all. My son would, be better without me, all that type of stuff coming back to me. So the internet now, this is how, like, we're talking now, like 2008, 2009. I didn't know about the internet, didn't know that there was, this thing out there that you get information from. So
Yeah.
I started doing a bit of research online, and I was going, like, starting to kind of realize I need to go to therapy. I need to sort myself out.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
is this the first time you've ever
yeah,
heard of therapy as well? Just kind
well,
of searching it up
I
online,
would
or
have known about, but not. I suppose it was something that was never for me. I couldn't understand how it had helped me, and I couldn't understand how this, going and talking to somebody might support me.
actually
I was,
help?
yeah, didn't get it, didn't get the concept, and suppose I was very naive and very, suppose, shrouded in, in ignorance, and not, not in the way of the world, because I'd been in addiction for so long and didn't know, what I
You
mean.
were in your own world.
Yeah,
Addiction,
living in my
pretty
own world.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah. Addiction and survival.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. Exactly. So I reached out to a therapist in the local town, and we started to work together, and, like, light bulb moments, eureka moments, it's like aha moments, these downloads started to happen. I was going, wow, this is what's been going on. Like, all the
Yeah.
pain and hurt, which was self-medicated, and I've done it again with the food, and now, and this, what I mean, realizing this needs to fucking change. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it just, and I got such relief from it. I got such understanding. That led me on then to sort of personal development. I signed up for a counselling course with online, because I said I'll go
Uh-huh.
online first instead of signing up for something, and then if I don't like it, sure, nobody will know I fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just do it online first, see if I like it, and I'm able.
Yeah. Yeah. Tip,
And if I'm
tip the
able
toe
for,
into the online space.
And if I'm able for it, because I always, maybe the drugs had deadened my brain cells or whatever, so I wasn't really sure about my capabilities and very not confident.
Well, I never thought about that as well,
Yeah,
because that can be an actual scientific thing, isn't it? That it can actually
yeah,
affect your brain and affect your brain cells. And
yeah.
wow,
So
I never even thought about that. That must have been a weird thought for you though.
yeah,
At
like,
that point in time, thinking I want to learn and I want to do something, then that actually like caused some kind of damage to the way that my learning and my brain's going to take that in. That must have been really weird.
yeah, because I had the most irrational, like, my thinking was just so skewed. Like, I didn't get a social welfare payment as a single parent for so long when I moved house, because there was a form that had to be filled in, and I was like, I can't fill that form in. I don't know. I wasn't confident enough to fill the form in. Like, there was these beliefs that I started picking up about, certain things, where going back to education was like, oh, okay, and I messed up towards the last few years of school, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able for it. So I done it online first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And with the support of my therapist, he really encouraged me to go back. And I said, right, I got such benefit from this. I can help other people. So I done it online first, and then I enrolled as a mature student in University of Ulster in Belfast. They had a degree in counselling and psychotherapy. And
Mhm.
I was like a fucking, I was the most excited, like ADD hyper person in the class, and everything they talked about, I was like, that's me, that's me. And I knew it.
You're
I'd say the lectures.
self-diagnosing yourself like
Yeah,
this is.
yeah, yeah. This was, and I was all about the trauma and my pain and my hurt, and and I'm so stuck when I think about it now. I even, reading, I found some like assignments I done there. I was looking for something in the attic the other day, and I found assignments, and I was reading, going, "Oh, you were a spa, Joanne. You were fucking Egypt." Like, but it was all about me. It was all about me and poor me, my horrible life, and
But that's where you've been in, and then that's the evolution because you were needing that to be about you and your trauma to get that eureka movement and bloody move through it though,
yeah,
So it's like
100%.
you kind of had to be selfish probably in that moment,
Yeah,
selfish because you were like probably recognizing for the first time, fuck, all these things it has, it is about me. I need to be
yeah, but I need
getting
to look
over
at me.
this.
I need to look
Yeah.
at me. Yeah, because I'm not going to get better if I don't. Yeah.
Exactly. So you were the spaz. It
Yeah,
was about you. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I see
but
now.
for a good reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see now when clients come to me, like, and I see them, they're in that place, and I go, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember being there. But yeah. So from there, then, like, I was still, my weight was still, I was trying to lose a bit, and I was tipping around 20 stone, 21 stone. I lost a bit of weight, but I was like still definitely overeating and not really looking after myself. And I got a job then started volunteering in an organization as a addiction support worker using my experience. And then I got an internship in HSE. So HSE be like the NHS in
Right.
Dublin in an addiction service, a residential service in Dublin. I got picked out of 153 people for an internship. So that was
Oh wow,
really,
well done.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
boosted my
amazing.
confidence hugely, Michelle. It was like when somebody believes in me, somebody thinks I can do this.
I've got something, yeah, and I'm useful and I'm gonna help. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was there for maybe 18 months, and then I went to an organization called Cool Mine. And so they're a therapeutic community in Dublin. So I went to work in a mother and baby unit there where I was helping women who bring their children with them into residential care. And something I was really passionate about, and I loved that. And then in the middle of all this, I suppose I went for treatment for my hepatitis. I got
Yeah,
cured of
like
that.
what happens with that? Yeah, like what is this life look like? What? Like explain to me. I don't actually like I'm pretty stupid with that. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
understand it.
hepatitis impacts your liver. It's a disease of the liver. It's a virus that impacts that attacks your liver.
Right.
Left untreated, liver cancer, cirrhosis. You know what I mean? And in some, like, I suppose, third world countries, hepatitis would be rampant and people would die from it. So I got treatment for that, which was horrendous at the time. Now it's really improved since, but it was an injection of interferon. So interferon was like a bit like a cancer treatment, we would like that attack cells in your body. So it
Okay.
was 6 months of medication and this injection, and it was absolutely
Yes.
horrendous. And uh, low mood, depression, very sick, your mental health really, really, really impacted, your motivation and that. So, I went through that in 2011, 2012, but I was delighted. I was blessed to get it. Like I wouldn't have got it only I was in recovery, and I worked. It was fantastic. I got, I was healed. I was better from it. So I didn't care what I went through once it made me
To
well.
actually to get that and how long did it take for the whole treatment then from start to finish?
Around,
Was it a
well,
long process?
treatment was 6 months. So the whole process probably around a year of, looking for to get, like viral loads disappeared and that. And but yeah, and like in that time then, like, you have to watch, if somebody, you can infect other people by your blood. So don't share toothbrushes, don't share razors, don't, you know what I mean, anything. If you cut yourself or you're, cooking or whatever, you have to be very careful around other people. They can reinfect people,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Bloody hell, that must have been like in the back of your mind as well that whole year going
yeah,
through that treatment as well. Because
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
around that time, then I'd married the man that I'd met just when I started to when I stopped using, and then we
Hmm.
divorced. And we split up in 2011. He was having I suppose an affair on the side with another. Well, not affair. He was about to meet up with another woman, and I just was like, well, I'm not putting up with any more shit in my life, and I fucked him out. Was just like, good luck, bye. So that was. All of that was happening at the one time, and then my son's dad passed away. He at this stage was homeless and was very, very unwell, and he passed away when Keane was around 2011.
Take it, did he just never move out of the addiction
He
stage?
never got better. He never got well, and he just stayed in yeah. So that was sad, and yeah, it was a very, very, very strange time. There was a lot going on at that time, but yeah, he Mark never got never found recovery. He died, yeah, on the 10th of June 2011. So, what happened with then? Then I suppose I started working within services, and
Yeah.
I started then to look at my physical health, and started going to boot camp, started running, started cycling, started swimming, started really got a buzz from, and was like, why did nobody tell me about exercise years ago when I was
Yeah, it's like now I need this addiction to the actual feel good. I want to go to the yeah, get the endorphins
yeah,
going.
I was like, this is fucking, and I loved exercise, and I still do to this day. I was in the gym this morning, but this was not as active as I used to be. But yeah, the fitness and the well being hugely helped my recovery and helped my mental health, and I really enjoyed it so much so that I actually put a gym into a service I used to work in. Because I saw the benefits of it for clients and for for people who are looking for addiction recovery, and there's huge correlation between using fitness and well-being to find recovery. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I started to lose weight. I lost 10 stone in 1 year. I worked with a PT.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. I went from around 23 and a half stone to 13 and a half within 1 year.
That must have felt a massive difference on
Oh,
your body, your like your mind and everything. That must have made a massive
yeah.
difference.
But even to be able to move easier, to have,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? To be able
Yeah.
to run up the stairs, to be able to not be out of breath, not feel,
Yeah.
like looking for clothes that were, just buying clothes just because they fit you, not because you like them.
Yeah, exactly. So for actually that confidence boost, and like you said, and for the health reasons as
Yeah,
well, like because that must have made you feel so out of breath doing the smallest of tasks. Being that heavy compared to that. Well done. That must have
yeah.
felt like amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and a real awareness, Michelle, of I knocked my body so much through my drug addiction that I really needed to start minding my body. I really needed to start to put into it just for it to bring me to old age, really. You know what I mean? And to really putting into my body. Like I'm never going to be. I'm not like I'm 14, 15 stone probably at the moment, but I'm never just going to be a skinny fucker. But I'm going to be fit and healthy,
Healthy.
and that's what it's for me. It was never, about the weight. It was really about being able to move, mobility, feeling good, being able to, not being sick, not being diabetes or heart disease or down the line. It was
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And feeling good, feeling confident and good in your own skin, mentally, physically. Yeah. And for the well-being side of things.
Liking
Absolutely.
myself, liking who I was. So that was, then I went to 2022 when COVID hit. Actually, I met a man then. I was single for years, single Pringle for years after getting rid of the husband. I decided I'd have a relationship with myself.
Good.
I was going
Yes, that's well needed after it. Yeah.
I was going to keep picking shitty men if I didn't do a bit of work on myself around that. So I, yeah, spent a good many years on my own and just really deciding that I had to have, a standard and boundaries around, when someone does come into my life, that I'm not, letting anybody in just because they give me a bit of attention, or they, really having very clear about what I will and won't accept in relationship.
What you like.
And then, yeah, in 2022, after COVID, I was working in the service here, and where in the major town I live in, and I was running a rehabilitation day program, and I decided I was going to go back and do my master's. So I went back in Trinity College in Dublin, and I got master's, top of my class in my dissertation. So that was powerful.
Amazing. Like, go Joanne. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
a turnaround. Like, oh,
I
I
know.
actually feel like I could cry. Like, I feel quite emotional hearing that. That's amazing.
Oh, Michelle, it was,
Absolutely.
yeah, amazing feeling standing on the steps of that college after graduating, and me going like, they let old me in here. The old, the old, addict. I hate that, you know what I mean? But like the
Yeah.
homeless,
Uh-huh.
and she was everything that, and they gave me a master's, and it was just amazing, amazing feeling, and be there with my son and my new partner, and it was just a fantastic, yeah, full circle moment. Going,
Totally
look at
full
me.
circle moment. That must have been like the most defining thing. Like, wow, journey. Like looking back and like you said, not putting yourself like me, the heroin addict, but that was part of who you were. It's not who you were, but taking that into that and then just being like, wow, like there's no many people that get to that moment.
Yeah,
And you just must have been like, that must have just been like overpoweringly like phenomenal. Like, this is my purpose. This has all been worth this crazy ass
yeah.
journey.
Yeah, and
Like,
and sometimes people do. I always believe I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't had that journey, and if I hadn't have, I wouldn't be, working in services now. I manage, as I said to you, I manage a project, and I help now other people to get to where, you know what I mean, to get to where I am, and I use my voice for, I look at, trying to inform penal reform in Ireland and talking about my lived experience of what it's like to have a criminal record. And, when I go to leave the country to visit my son, if I go for a job, everything that every time I go, you have a criminal record, so I have to disclose that, my past, and, it's constantly, and I'm looking at, that is not fair on people who have committed crimes, something they've done in their past, and that it follows them through for the rest of their life and
carries
career.
weight to their future. Yeah. So you're working, so that's part of what you're doing just now with the criminal justice system. Like, what is it when you're doing that reform? What is
Yeah,
the
so I'm on I suppose, an advisory group or a leadership program for people who have come out of the criminal justice system. So I'm one of the leaders on the program. So it's going to inform people about, I suppose, one, we're trying to raise awareness of what it's like for people who have criminal, have been in prison, or who have a criminal record, and how that really impacts the rest of their life, whether it's trying to get a house, trying to get a mortgage, trying to get, leave the country. Like, I tried to go and visit my son last year in Vancouver, and I was refused a visa because, like, there's a visiting visa because of my criminal record.
really
Yeah, yeah.
seriously?
And, if I go for a job,
Uh,
Michelle, the sector I work in, you're working with vulnerable people. So every time I go for a job, I get, on the vetting, criminal record, and I have to explain, like, something I done over 20 years ago now. I still have to sit with people and go, this is something I done in, you know what I mean? And it does, it can be
like, it
very,
never leaves you.
yeah.
Yeah,
And you're still kind of judged through that lens. You know what I mean?
yeah,
People still say,
and that's tough, and
yeah.
that's
Yeah. So some of the work we're doing is trying to raise awareness around that, how that impacts. We're trying to inform the Department of Justice within Ireland around, trying to look at, not putting people into prison for, petty crimes or stuff that they maybe have committed through addiction, and that we're looking at a health led response to individuals that are in addiction, and it's not a criminal justice response. So somewhat decriminalisation of individuals, that they don't end up with, criminal conviction for something they've done through their addiction. They should actually be supported and rehabilitated and given help, instead of putting
rehabilitated.
people into prison where they further get educated on, on drugs and on criminality, and, and they further traumatize them. So, and so it's
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
yeah, about promoting that, and not, giving people custodial sentences, maybe giving people community sanctions, or, putting them into rehabilitation programs, instead of, putting, like, someone like
Which is
myself
really
in prison.
important. Yeah, I think that rehabilitation programs and looking at things differently because, yeah, like everybody has a choice, but when you're in addiction, because you've been there in your mind, it's a different,
Yeah, you're
it
not
must,
consciously setting out to be a
yeah,
criminal. You're not like a
yeah,
mastermind, robbing banks or
That's
you're
yeah.
just getting by. You're existing. So
So
that's
that is really important because when they do, I mean, I don't know what obviously goes on in prison and things like that, but I would imagine, do go there and drugs is still a thing there, if not more, and they could get themselves like, in a deeper, deeper hole that who knows if they would actually get out or come out worse than what
yeah.
they actually went in. So that's really important if it's through an addiction and something. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like I looked at my son's dad, and he was in and out of prison, and every time he came out, he was more educated, knew more associates, you know what I mean, further traumatized, and it just further propelled him into his life of chaos, So there is no rehabilitation within prison systems, as far as I'm concerned, and there are so many other ways that we can address, we can address this and support people instead of further traumatizing them and putting them into a system that's not going to help them. So
Yeah.
that's one part of our work. And then the other part is we run a leadership program for people who just come out of prison and they're looking personal development and leadership and how to use their lived experience as, I suppose, a unique selling point and to use their voice and to,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I suppose, inform policy and practice down the line. But that's one piece of some of the work I do. And then with it as a manager of services, I suppose I'm supporting a team of around 8 or 9 people to support other people to find addiction recovery.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we offer an array of programs and groups and one-to-ones and all that for people that want support around their substance or alcohol misuse. And then I have my own private practice. I'm a psychotherapist and counsellor and life coach. So people come to me then just want, what I mean, me to work with them on a one-to-one basis. And that's another one of my hats I wear. And then myself and a colleague set up a drug testing service maybe 5 years ago.
Huh?
Yeah, so people who I don't know if it's a thing in Scotland, or it is actually, because I'd be very aware of Scottish policy around. You're very ahead, actually. Do you know that Scottish drug policy is pretty at the forefront within
Was it?
yeah, just they're very, very, very vocal, I suppose, you know what I mean, about um the lived experience, using your voice, and also they, I suppose, maybe have a lot of experience of addiction and stuff within Scotland, but they're very, very, they're very at the forefront within I suppose England, Ireland, Wales and
For
Scotland.
this kind of
Yeah.
change kind of going forward. Well, that's interesting to know. And what, like, have the same, I suppose, type of establishments like that user doing that people can kind of go to? Are they kind of driving that forward here, like what user doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, always, you know what I mean? Scotland would always be, of all its time, would have been very much at the forefront of driving, harm reduction policy or driving recovery based, policy
Yeah.
within the addiction fields, which is great. Where was I talking about then? I'm gone now after. Yeah, so this is what I was saying. Yeah, the urine. So we have a drug testing service. So people who
Yeah.
are
That was it.
sometimes are mandated or asked to show their drug status for court. So maybe their charges, maybe it's child protection issues, maybe it's family law, maybe it's, my partner thinks I'm doing drugs and I'm not, and I want to prove that. So it's really, they come to us and they give urines and we analyze them for drugs, and they're then able to show their drug status.
Like some kind of proof, yeah, to whatever it is that they need to be doing. So is this like is it like a funded service, or is it something people need to pay for, or is it
I don't
something
think
you've
people need to
worked?
pay for it, but people can get funding for it, and we also offer a sliding scale for people. So if you're not working, or if you're not, we kind of do a deal.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. If it's something that could help them get into work or something
Mm,
like that,
mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's it. That's me in a nutshell, Michelle. It only took me 50 minutes to explain all that to you.
Honestly, like, wow, wow, what a roller coaster I've just been on. Like, I'm speechless, and that's not like me. Like,
No, you're
what?
never
I
speechless.
know. Sorry, my chest is going again. Just a horrible chesty cough. But honestly, like, you're just so inspirational, really hand on heart, like just hearing that story of life, real life, because there's so many things that people go through, different elements of your story, in some way that somebody might connect to that and just be like, wow, wow, and look what you're doing now. You're making so much changes, and even just your own personal one where you're doing the life coaching. I mean, if I was going to have a life coach, I think I'd be right on it there with you, because I'd be like, this woman has done life. Like, she knows she's done life. And the fact that you get in the masters, and and it's not just like you're doing one thing now. You've not taken just your experience and just decided, go do life coaching and I'm going to support other people and stuff. You've got, like you said, you've got so many different hats on. You're doing so many different things to help in so many different areas and ways, but the ones that you know you can make a difference.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
just,
Yeah, and like Michelle, sometimes people say to me, "You're doing too much, you burn out, you need to slow down." And but then there's a part of me, and I need to use my voice to support other people, to help other people, to empower other people. So I think while I have that voice, and it's a gift I've been given, I've
it's
been
a
honoured
gift.
to have it. So I need to use it in every form and everywhere I can to make change happen. So I don't think I'll ever stop that part. You know what I mean? The advocacy and using my knowledge as a
Yeah,
way of supporting others. Yeah, but yeah, it can at times, like it can be, with everything that goes
I
on,
know.
and then writing a chapter in a book, and and there's everything, and then being a mother, and being a partner, and being a daughter, and just trying to do all the other bits and be a friend to people and support people. Yeah, sometimes it's like, but I'm very good at minding myself, and I'm very good at listening to my body and kind of going, I slow down a bit now, and
That's exactly what I was just going to ask you. With doing all that you do, how do you then say to yourself, right, I need to have some me time, make sure that I'm doing good and keeping myself, because you are supporting people, and it's not just in one area. There's so many different things that you're doing. So even though it's all your knowledge, do you have something in place that you purposefully do every week to make sure that you're staying grounded within yourself, or do you just kind of go, I'm feeling it a bit now. I need
yeah,
to ground
yeah.
myself.
I go on a lot of holidays. I take a lot of time. I like traveling, and I go away. We bought a caravan last year, so I find when I'm away,
Lovely, amazing.
you
Love a wee
can't.
caravan holiday.
Oh, yeah, you can't do anything in a caravan. It's not, when you're home and you're like, I'll clean this, I'll do this, or I'll do this bit of maintenance, or
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do. You just sit. You have to be. So I love that about the caravan. I travel a good bit. I go to the gym. I walk. Would like I'm getting a massage later on today.
lovely.
I
Wee
like
Friday massage.
I got trained to be a Rahani practitioner there a while ago. So I like holistic therapies. I would meditate, mindfulness. I have a what's that mat with all the spikes in it? I lie on that in the evening and I might meditate, and I cold
You've
water.
got a mat with the spikes. With
Yeah, it's
spikes
just
on
called
it.
a shanty. Well, I get it for you. I've just got you lie on it. It's
Yeah, I'm
like
like,
with
what
nails.
is this? What is
It's
this
like a thing with nails in it, and you lie
It
on it.
sounds like a torture.
It's like acupuncture. It's like pressure points, and you lie on this mat, and it gives you a relaxation,
Oh,
helps
I
you
need to
wind
get
down.
myself one of these mats.
I'll send you a picture later.
Yeah. Oh, I've never heard of this before. Oh, I'm gonna have to get myself one of them.
Shantanti. I can't think of it. I'm so bad with names. Shantanti mat or something. So you lie. It's all got spikes on it, but it's sore at the beginning. But then it gets really relaxing. It's like acupuncture points in your back, so it's giving you a little like. So all that stuff.
Brilliant.
I meditate every day, and I cold water most days. I have a plunge pool out the back. I might go to the sea. I might have a cold shower. Then, yeah, I might have a glass of wine on a Friday evening. Like I'm in recovery, but I'm not abstinent in recovery, and that's a topic I've talked about before. So I don't drink alcohol like I used to, or like used to take heroin or coke, or
Yeah.
so. I've very good friends and family around me. The biggest, I suppose, meditation, cold water, and exercise hugely. And I like a bit of plant based medicine as well. I've tried ayahuasca, and
Have you?
yeah, and I have a retreat now in a few weeks where I'll, kind of invest in some different, journaling and meditation and fire walking and cold water, and I will do
Yes. All the
camo, and
powerful
yes,
things.
yeah. So I like now and again I'll go off and do stuff like that. I go to a few festivals. So I live a very, very fulfilling life, and I'm not like, I
Yes.
don't preach total
Amazing.
abstinence to people. So I'm, as I say, I will, I'll do plant-based medicine. I take a glass of wine. So I'm not this purist in recovery, abstinent-based head that, goes to meetings, and, and I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm not saying that that's not, but for me, this is my recovery journey, and it's been very, very, I suppose, given me an excellent quality of life and made me very happy. So,
Yeah, now it's like you've found that
yeah,
balance of
balance.
what,
Yes,
yeah, that balance of what you need to still go through your life, how you want to live it, without restricting things that before, like that alcohol. Like, you can have that and you can trust in yourself now because of where you're at and how solid you've built yourself. That, yeah, I'm never going to get that because I still want to enjoy it, but I'm enjoying it for the
yeah,
place that I'm at right now,
yeah.
not to who I was.
Exactly, Michelle. I always say that, like, I've dealt with all the pain and hurt and trauma. I never ever drink like I used, in addiction. I'm coming from I'm a very different person now, and I'm not saying everybody can do that. I know my friends in recovery that are totally absent, and I respect that 100%. But that
Yeah.
was not my recovery journey, and I'm very happy with my choices. Yeah, yeah, I'm very happy with my choices. So yeah.
Tell me a little bit before we go diving off, because I've got plenty of time. Tell me a little bit more about the plant medicine, because this really, really interests me. And it's something actually that I've considered looking into. It just
Yeah.
really interests me. It really interests me, the plant medicine, and you can do the retreats based around that. So it's really interesting that. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit of
So
information, your thing on that, yeah.
yeah, so as you know, I'm a therapist and I would have always talking therapies. I'm an integrative therapist, so I would pull from person centered, CBT, and psychodynamic, and all so many other, I suppose, modalities I pull from as working in the addiction recovery field. So I would have been very, this was the way forward. This is where healing came from. But in the last maybe 6, 7 years, I've been kind of looking at, the book The Body Keeps the Score and how trauma is trapped in the body. So looking at more somatic, ways of healing. So everything that, from meditation to breath work to, Tai Chi, all this stuff but then I was like, I felt that there was a certain limit to how far you could go with talking therapies. And I always was aware that there was the unconscious part of the brain. I was not tapping into it a
But
little
tapping
bit.
into that,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And kind of, I would have, for my time, I suppose, of using substances, would have had a very much a spiritual, around psychedelics, and I would have been aware of that. Kind of opened up that part of my psyche or consciousness that never
Mm.
really tapped into. So, um, I started to research it a bit and kind of, a lot of research lately around therapeutic, around psychedelics or, the therapeutic process and being able to, support people more. So I decided, I was a bit nervous, but I decided there last year, the year before, that I went on an ayahuasca retreat. So I had 3 nights of ayahuasca and I done DMT. So it's called Bufo, but it's, and then I done another called Cambo, which is a kind of a detoxing cleansing. So it's the poison of a frog from the Amazon basin, which is put into your skin. So the whole weekend was the most amazing spiritually. I cried, sobbed, the healing that was like the first night of the ayahuasca. I just relived all the trauma of the abuse, and it was horrendous. It was like I was back there.
Really? Does it take you back?
Yeah, it showed me my life. You know what I mean? My first night, it showed me really my past, my life. And the second night, it started to show me my power. So it was showing me in like, this sex goddess, which was like,
Oh,
just live your life as you say what you want to say, be who you want to be. And if people have a problem with that, Joanne, that's their fucking problem. And it
yeah,
really
like fuck
started to
them,
show
yeah.
me, yeah, it really started to step into your power, use your voice. This is, you know what I mean? And it showed me other things. It was like, you're not eating as well as you should. You need to go to the gym more. You're ignoring maybe loved ones. You need to give them a bit more time. But it really gave me this, and all stuff I kind of unconsciously knew was in me, but it brought it to the forefront of my head and went, this is what
Yeah,
you need to do. Really, like, this 9 to 5 lark, killing yourself in a job. What are you at? Like, you're going to die. You're going to live your life on your terms. Make yourself happy. Travel more. Don't be working as hard. All of the stuff that you kind of know, but you don't really. You ignore.
yes, it's in the background and you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it was really, really powerful. And I came back with this whole I came back from the retreat from this real sense of purpose and who I am. And, and as the weeks go on, you kind of lose some of it. Like I journaled the whole time I was there, and I even read back there a few days ago on some of the stuff, and I was like, so I'm going to do another one now in 3 or 4 weeks' time. A different place. I'm going to a different person this time. It's up in the Mourne Mountains, and like that, it's a mixture of cacao, of ayahuasca, of cambo, of like breath work, cold water, fire walking, journaling, healthy food,
Wow,
exercise.
oh
So it's
my
all
God, that's
weekends.
the whole bloody, the whole hog.
Yeah. Whole hog. Yeah. But Michelle, have a go at it. I just like I done the DMT, and I met God. I talked to my father who was in heaven. And he was like, yeah, you're living a great life. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping the people you're helping. You're on track. Yeah, life was shit for you for a long time, but look at you now. And I was like,
Wow, wow, boom. Oh, definitely.
yeah,
I have spoke to a guy I know, he'd done it a long time ago, and he actually ended up giving up the life that he was living previously because after he had had this experience, he was like, I can't keep doing what I'm doing.
yeah. Well,
He totally moved away and is living life doing a totally different thing now and on his terms and on his purpose. So I have heard so many different experiences of it. And I'm like, I'd love to do something like that. Like,
yeah, well,
yeah,
it's made me now. I'm going to a 4 day week very soon. I want to slow down. I don't want to work. I still want to do the work I'm doing, but I don't want to work like I am. If that makes sense. So I
yeah,
like the
yeah,
work. I like supporting people. I like the work I do. I see I'm making change in my community, but I don't want to work as hard as I have been, and I want to make time for all these other adventures and experiences in my life because very
yeah.
I was shown very clearly you're going to die, so and this is your chance at this, so make the most of it while you can.
Wow, you're
And
here.
yeah, so I get it where people come back and just go, I'm not living this life anymore, because that's what I was like, right, I'll be retired by 55, and I won't be working, and I'll be living in my caravan, tipping around, swimming, and going for nice food and meditating, and that's where it's at for me now.
Yeah, that's like life goals. Like, yes,
Yeah,
yes. Because we're so conditioned to be like, you got to work until you're, no, you got your job and you've got to work till you're whatever age. And it's like, no, I'm changing that. I want to be living life by design. I don't want to be doing because then, like, it's like what you do, you work, you keep your trauma and you work. And then what? Then you just die once you
yeah.
finish. Like no. It's the change makers now, and you're definitely one of them. I love that. What a life goal. Like in my caravan, just potting about, living life, doing my wee cold dips. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
that's the plan. So that's where it's at. So I just have to ride out now the next 6 years, and I'm be gone then. Well, the 9 to 5 will be gone, Michelle. I'll still do my psychotherapy, my coaching, my counselling.
Yeah.
I'll still do all that, but the 9 to 5 will be gone. I'm not.
That's not a part of your life
No.
design that needs to be there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've had honestly the best Friday morning, Joanne.
Good.
Like the best Friday morning. What a story, what an inspiration, and just seeing that you're still developing and growing because obviously it's not like you just heal and then that's it done. Like, oh well, I've healed. It's a continuous thing and you're continuing to grow and push yourself and keep on this healing path.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm continuously learning, continuously, looking for courses or trying to better and be able to, in order to better myself, then I'm able to support people in different ways. So yeah, I'll always learn. I'll always, a PhD would be in my head there, but I'm like, that'd be a huge commitment. But like, I like learning now. I have the confidence in that space that so I'll always be evolving and growing. And I don't think anybody's ever fully, and we always need to continue growing and evolving and changing and being our best person we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Joanne, it's been an absolute pleasure. On
Thank you, Michelle. It's been lovely chatting to you. It was
it
really,
has. It's
really
been lovely.
easy. And yeah, it was lovely, lovely chat. Thanks a million for having me.
Well, you're so welcome. And if anybody wants any support or wants to reach out for
Yeah.
the services you do or wants to chat, how could they reach out to you? What's the best way to get in
Um,
contact?
I'm on Instagram as Jojo Dewirable. I'm on Facebook. I give you my email address. I also have a website, and I don't even know the name of it. I think it's called jogw.ie.
Well, you can send
Yeah,
Just
find me
send
on
it to me, because when
Instagram.
I do what I'll do when I post these, I'll put a description in, and I'll put all of the ways that people can contact you. I'll add it. I'll
Yeah.
add it onto this, so
And then,
you can double check that.
yeah, and then the book, I suppose where the two of us are connected in that way with
Yeah,
the book, Start Over, Turn Any Loss into a Sensational Comeback,
yeah, and
Volume
that's
3.
exactly it.
Yeah, and the Dublin launch is on the 14th of June, and I'll be at that speaking about my life. So if anybody's around and wants to come to that, yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Come along to that and reach out to him. Brilliant. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you, and have the most
Thanks,
amazing
Michelle.
day.
Have a
And
fantastic day and weekend.
yes, I
Thanks for the
shall do.
opportunity.
Yeah, oh, thanks for coming on, honestly. It's been enlightening. You've just really sparked I don't know, just my feel good in life, that it's just so nice hearing real stories for real people of like overcoming things, and just now you're like a shining light in the world, and it's just amazing to see. And thank you for sharing your journey.
Now go and look at that plant-based medicine. Get into it, right? Come on.
Oh, well, I'm there. I'm like, oh, right, give me the frog. Let me kiss a frog. What a few of them. What a
There's
few
been
of
a
them.
fucking lot of them
I
in my
want a
life, I tell
few.
you.
Yeah.
Go on, goodbye.
Right,
Love
right.
you.
Take
Bye,
care,
bye,
my
bye,
love.
bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.